On the day I found out I was pregnant, my boyfriend held a small wedding ceremony with his first love. His explanation: her last wish in this life is to be my bride. And what about me? What was I to him? I finally understood that 10 years of waiting and devotion meant nothing compared to a single tear from his first love. The moment James slipped the wedding ring onto the bride's finger, the room erupted in applause. The atmosphere was fervent as he lifted her veil. And finally, I saw the person he had once longed for day and night, dressed in a white wedding gown. Mia was breathtakingly beautiful. She made me feel ashamed of my own inadequacy. The crowd cheered. Kiss. Kiss. Mia stood on her tiptoes at just the right moment, tilting her face up and pursing her lips. He seemed to hesitate, eventually placing a kiss only on her cheek. It was then that he saw me standing under the tree. This was a wedding held in a hospital garden. It added a touch of romance and warmth to a place usually associated with solemnity. Yet this man, the boyfriend who swore he would love me forever, who promised to give me a perfect wedding, was holding someone else's hand and vowing never to leave her side. And I just stood there, dazed. My hands and feet were cold. A breeze blew past, chilling my face. Because of my presence, the wedding was forced to a halt. Who is that? What is she doing here? She's not here to object, is she? Compared to the bride, she's far inferior. The gazes of all the guests were fixed on me. They frowned, their faces full of disapproval, as if I were the villain. As if I were the one stopping this perfect love story. Mia saw me too. She frowned slightly, beautiful like an exquisite sculpture. James looked panicked. He let go of her hand and made a move to chase after me. Sophia. Mia grabbed his arm, tears in her eyes, looking pitiful. James. This wedding cannot proceed without a groom. This man, usually so steadfast and calm, actually hesitated. He looked at me, but his body leaned toward Mia. What was I still hoping for? Waiting any longer would only be humiliating myself. He wouldn't choose me. I turned and left. Sophia. James took a few steps toward me. Someone behind him screamed hoarsely. Mia. Chaos ensued. In the end, he didn't chase after me. I didn't sleep all night. James didn't come back either. Our chat interface was still paused at my last message. James. I have a surprise for you when you get back. I never expected that he would give me a huge surprise first. On the day I found out I was pregnant, my lover took someone else's hand and walked down the aisle. I really thought he was on a business trip. I really thought he was so busy he couldn't even reply to messages. Turns out, he was busy getting married. He turned my waiting and my surprise, everything I did, into a joke. I crumpled the pregnancy report in my hand. There was no point anymore. When I met James, he and Mia had just broken up. He had suffered a double blow to his career and love life. And my appearance was just coincidental. I gave him comfort. I gave him encouragement. It took me 7 whole years to accompany him from rock bottom to the peak. 7 years later, he said he wanted to marry me. I thought his feelings for me were gratitude or guilt. But he said, I don't know when it started, but my gaze landed on you. And since then, I haven't been able to look away. At that moment, it was hard to describe my feelings. He didn't know. Long before that, he had left a mark on my heart. It was me who had been chasing his shadow all along. And on that day, my secret crush finally blossomed and bore fruit. I finally saw the moonlight through the clouds. I had thought so. I really thought so. But MIA's appearance shattered all my illusions. It was just self-deception. He never forgot her. When the last ray of sunset dissipated from the horizon, I finally decided to leave. Just as I finished packing my suitcase, there was movement outside the door. James opened the door and came in, looking exhausted. Sophia. That wedding doesn't count. I looked at him quietly. I didn't say a word. Mia has ALS. She wanted to be a bride once. In this moment, was his pain due to my lack of understanding, or because Mia was about to wither away? I couldn't tell. Probably the latter. He was rarely sad because of me. When I went to see her today, she was wearing a wedding dress and asked me to accompany her through the rest of the process. An indescribable sadness lingered between his brows. Sophia. I couldn't refuse. She's dying. Refuse. Did he really think about refusing? At the wedding, the smile on his face couldn't be faked. He married the person he had longed for in his youth. He used to dream of marrying her. I asked, when did she come back? The day we went to pick out rings. Actually, everything had traces. That day, he took a call. He was always calm and self-possessed. Moreover, with his career flourishing in recent years, he rarely showed his emotions. But that day, he was suddenly distracted. Between his brows, there was a sorrow and anxiety I couldn't see through. He said there was a problem with the business, and he had to deal with it quickly. I believed him. Later, he went on a business trip for a few days. After coming back, he often stared blankly. During that time, I always tried my best to make him happy. I really thought he encountered a tricky problem. I hoped I could share his worries. Turns out, he was worrying about another woman. I asked him, were you with her during that business trip too? He remained silent. He usually disdained lying to me, but in the end, he broke his rule for Mia. I suddenly realized that I didn't seem to know him anymore. But this face, the quiet brows, the thin lips, were clearly his. I laughed self-deprecatingly. James, forget it. He didn't respond. Standing in front of me, unmoving, his lips were pressed tight. His Adam's apple moved, as if he had something to say. But he said nothing. I pushed my suitcase, preparing to bypass him and leave. But he grabbed my wrist, his eyebrows knitted tight, his voice hoarse. Sophia, don't go. I shook off his hand. I went to the hospital for a checkup and then booked an appointment for surgery. As soon as I got downstairs, I bumped into Mia. She looked at me with a smile and introduced herself openly. Hello, I'm Mia. She was a ballet dancer. Her posture and appearance were both excellent. Standing with her, the difference was obvious. Back when James' career failed, she left him and resolutely went abroad for further studies. Perhaps people are always gluttons for punishment. What you can't get is always the best. That's why James had been pining for her all these years. And someone like me, who rushed forward, naturally wouldn't be cherished by him. I heard from James that you're his fiancé. When she said this, she raised her chin, the corners of her mouth turning up slightly, full of smugness. She was showing off to me. So what if I was the fiancé? Didn't he still go through a wedding with her? Didn't he still recite vows of eternal love with her? In her eyes, I was just a joke. James should have already explained that wedding to you. I didn't want to talk to her. My mouth tasted sour and bitter. He has nothing to do with me anymore. I wasn't so overestimating of my abilities, nor so despicable. To fight with a dying person. What she wanted, she could have. I walked away quickly. Mia seemed to have more to say. While chasing me, she fell to the ground. James appeared at that moment. The situation made him frown slightly. He hurried forward and helped me up. His movements were gentle, as if afraid that being slightly rougher would break her. When his eyes met mine, there was a sharpness and blame in them. Sophia, Mia is a patient. Yes, she was a patient. So he could spend the whole night with her without explaining a word, leaving me alone at home to overthink. Only the next day did he say a few insignificant words, begging me not to go. I was never his priority. I didn't do anything. It was your wife who tripped over nothing. I emphasized the word wife, my tone mocking. His frown deepened, probably because of my attitude. To him, I had always been considerate. Over the years, I had almost never shown any sharp edges in front of him. Truly humble enough. Mia looked apologetic, but the smile in her eyes deepened. I fell by myself. It has nothing to do with Sophia. James. You know, sometimes I can't control my movements. At this moment, I suddenly understood that Mia was proud by nature and disdained using any petty tricks. She really just had to hook her finger and show her wound. And James would eagerly come running. He still had feelings for her and couldn't bear to blame her for abandoning him. In the face of life and death, what did past grievances matter? Hearing her words, James was stunned. When he met my eyes, he stopped speaking. Mia took the orange from his hand. Her tone relaxed. All right, you must have a lot to say. I'll go back to the ward first. You guys take your time. Only then did I notice the orange that had been peeled perfectly clean by James. Let me tell you something funny. I love oranges. But James didn't like them. When we first got together, he took me to dinner with his friends. He introduced me to his friends, a gesture that made me feel very secure. At that time, I didn't fully understand his likes and dislikes. To get closer to him, I offered a piece of orange cake to his mouth. He froze, his lips tight shut. There was a moment of silence in the atmosphere. His friends all looked at me. Sweat oozed from my palms. I subconsciously thought, did I do something wrong? Did I make him unhappy? Someone smoothed things over. James hates orange-flavored things the most. Sophia, you didn't know that. Punish yourself with a drink. The atmosphere quickly heated up again. But in the end, I still felt disappointed. Once, after getting drunk, James finally told me the reason. Actually, when he was a child, he didn't resist citrus fruits. His mother was in poor health and had a poor appetite, but she especially liked tangerines. And there were always some at home. It was a cold winter. She peeled a tangerine for him one last time, kissed his cheek, and said, "Wait for Mom at home. When you finish this plate of tangerines, Mom will come back." That day, he waited until the last ray of sunset disappeared from the sky, waited until the snow fell heavier and heavier, covering his ankles. In the end, he only waited for one sentence. "James, your mom jumped into the river." His mother died that winter. When he grew older, he realized that his mother didn't like tangerines that much. It was just that she was sick, and tangerines were cheap and brightly colored. Mom's tangerines were just a helpless choice under the dual oppression of life and illness. His voice choked. Later, I never ate tangerines or oranges again. That night, his tears were scalding, rolling over my skin, making me cry too. I knew oranges would remind him of his mother, would remind him of his miserable and helpless childhood. So later, I basically stopped eating them too. Even citrus perfumes were hidden in the deepest part of the cabinet by me and never taken out again. It wasn't until this moment, seeing the orange in his hand, that I finally understood. Actually, James was strong enough not to need to avoid these things. It was just that I couldn't be his exception. It was just that he never cared about my sacrifices. It was just that he didn't really know what I liked. But he knew Mia liked oranges. What sad memories, what embarrassing pasts, could all make way for her likes. James looked at her with concern. "Do you need me to call a nurse?" His concern for her had always been blatantly obvious. Mia shrugged, her smile bright. "James, I can walk back myself. You guys talk." Only then did James look at me. "Sophia, where did you move to?" "You." A loud noise came. Mia hadn't walked far before falling again. Before James finished speaking, he turned and ran toward her. I stood there, watching his face full of anxiety, watching him frown because of the scrape on her arm. He said, "Told you not to come by yourself. It hurts, doesn't it?" His tone wasn't heavy, like scolding, like flirting. He asked, "Can you still walk?" Mia shook her head. So he picked her up in his arms. They left in the opposite direction. Mia wrapped her arms around his neck, turned to look at me, and smiled brightly. Her smug expression said 3 words: "I won." She repeated her old trick. Very stupid, but really effective. My stomach churned. I turned and ran to the bathroom at the end of the corridor, vomiting violently. A long time later, James sent a message. "Sophia, why were you at the hospital? Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" Wasn't this sentence a bit too late? Yesterday, he also forgot to ask why I appeared at his wedding. I shook my head and laughed self-deprecatingly. Then, I blocked all his contact information. James still found out about my pregnancy. Chloe looked apologetic. "Sophia, I'm so sorry. I'll definitely teach Ryan a lesson when I get back." Ryan said on the other end of the phone. "Sophia, you two have been together for so long. Give James a chance. And give the child a chance." Chloe cursed, grabbed the phone from my hand, and yelled at Ryan. What James did wasn't human. Only Sophia has a good temper. If it were me, I'd twist his arm off and let him and Mia fly off together as 2 sweet cripples. It's funny to say, Chloe is my best friend, and Ryan is James' childhood friend. We were the matchmakers for their relationship. It only took 2 years for them to tie the knot. They got their marriage license a few days ago and were just missing a wedding. While James and I, after grinding for 7 years, ended up like this. James came after all, running, sweating profusely, looking anxious. Seeing I was still outside the operating room, his brows suddenly relaxed. He hugged me tightly, very tightly, as if afraid I would disappear if he let go. "Sophia, I was wrong. Don't be impulsive. Can we talk properly?" There was a faint smell of smoke on him. James' dad died of lung cancer, so he rarely smoked. Only when he was really annoyed would he have one. These days, he had been running around seeking medical treatment for Mia. Some people even asked me about it. They beat around the bush asking if I was in good health. These people actually thought I could make James this anxious. Truly ridiculous. Stronger than the smell of smoke was the scent of jasmine. A few days ago at the hospital, I smelled this familiar scent on Mia. I suddenly remembered. That was the 2nd year we were together. Also the 5th year we had known each other. His father passed away. And immediately after, the company's capital chain had some problems. During that time, James couldn't sleep all night, worried about his health. I asked a doctor to prescribe some Chinese medicine to calm his nerves. Afterward, I specially took half a day off to brew the medicine for him. That day, I watched over the pot of soup, waited until very late, only to receive a message. Sophia, I want to be alone and clear my head. Don't worry about me. He didn't come back for a few days. He carried this jasmine scent on him. It turned out that at that time, he went to find Mia, to find his only spiritual pillar. What was even more ridiculous was that when I asked him why he smelled like that, he handed me a bottle of perfume. A gift for you. The sales assistant tested it for me. I thought you would like it. He went out to clear his head and remembered to bring me a gift. I thought he must love me very much. Previous unhappiness was swept away. During the time that followed, our relationship progressed by leaps and bounds. He loved clinging to me, burying his face in the crook of my neck. Unfortunately, it wasn't until today that I understood his intention. He didn't like me that much. He just liked the jasmine scent on me. Without knowing it, I was used by him as a substitute for Mia. A clumsy substitute. Except for that scent. We had no similarities. I struggled out of his arms and slapped him hard. He stood there in a daze, covering his face, somewhat at a loss. Chloe looked at me. Sophia, why did you? I covered my mouth and ran to the bathroom. I vomited terribly, as if I were going to vomit out my heart, liver, and lungs. Chloe handed me a bottle of water and kept patting my back to help me breathe. Why are you throwing up like this? You're really suffering. James stood at the door, a look of distress on his face. Several red finger marks were particularly conspicuous on his pale cheek. I stared at him hatefully. Do you know how disgusting you are to me? That bottle of perfume. You picked it specifically. Right. The same scent as Mia. Of course, he knew what I was talking about. Instantly, his face turned pale. What on earth was he thinking when he did these things? Did he not find himself disgusting? Sophia, listen to my explanation. I didn't understand back then. I thought it was the scent that reassured me. Later I realized, it was you who reassured me. Sophia, I really want to marry you. I sneered. Fine. One or the other. Either make Mia get out of our lives, or we draw a clear line. From now on, never appear in front of me again. James' expression froze. He was probably really thinking about it. Chloe shouted, what are you hesitating for? Of course pick Sophia. You've known each other for 7 years and been together for 4. Have you forgotten all that? But James didn't think so. He murmured, but she's dying. Sophia. She's dying. She's a ballet dancer. But she has ALS. Do you know that kind of despair? His sentence seemed to mock me. Mia was only losing a life. What I was losing was love. How ridiculous. James. But you are my boyfriend. Do you pity her enough to marry her? Pity her enough to ignore my feelings? Abandon me again and again. And run to her? Do you pity her? Or do you still have feelings for her? Can't you tell the difference yourself? Using terminal illness as an excuse countless times to cover up his lingering feelings. Truly stubborn. James didn't speak again. He just clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. Yet he still didn't say an answer. At this moment, a phone ring broke the deathly silence. James took out his phone. The other end was noisy. Someone shouting, come quick. Mia is threatening suicide. She doesn't want to live. He panicked immediately. And at this time, the nurse called me into the operating room. Actually, he had already made his choice. I smiled and said, go ahead. Don't let her really die, or you'll hate me for life. Being hated by this kind of person would also damage my karma. James looked at me, begging with his eyes. Sophia, promise me. Wait for me to come back before making a decision. Okay. I am the child's father. We can discuss it together. I pulled the corners of my lips, My nails dug hard into my palms. These 7 years. Treat them as fed to a dog. Another call. The other end urged urgently. Chloe said viciously, James, do you have any conscience at all? His expression was visible anxiety. He was probably really afraid. Afraid that Mia would be gone just like that. Chloe hated that iron didn't become steel. Mia is a liar. Can't you see through her tricks? How could he not see? James wasn't stupid. He was just indulging her. He was just afraid that there was a 1 in 10,000 chance that Mia would jump from the high building. Sophia, wait for me to come back. Wait for me to come back and well make a decision. I didn't speak. He turned to look at Chloe. Chloe, I beg you, help me watch her. Don't let her go in. Chloe scolded. Watch her yourself. Are you even a man? I told him to wait a moment. Then I unscrewed the bottle cap and poured the remaining half bottle of water I used for rinsing my mouth all over his head. James, we're done. Don't come looking for me. Water droplets meandered down his face. Drip, drip, falling to the ground. He looked quite stupid. Water splashed into his eyes, stinging them red. He stared blankly at me and hoarsely said, I'm sorry. Looking at his figure running away, I felt I was truly a failure. Chloe stomped her foot in anger. That dog of a man. After cursing, she asked me, Sophia, are you okay? I'm fine. I never thought he would choose me. Even if he chose me. Even if Mia completely left our lives. We couldn't go back to how we were. A broken mirror cannot be reunited. Before entering the operating room, I sent him a few messages. If you're willing, many people will give birth to your children. But in this world, there is only one Mia. I wanted him to remember that this child was killed by him and Mia with their own hands. I wanted him to remember that he once lay on my stomach and asked me, Sophia, do you prefer a boy or a girl? He was the one who wanted a child. And he was the one who abandoned this child. Killing the heart is nothing more than this. The surgery was done quickly. When I woke up, Ryan was there too. I suddenly remembered something. Ryan, there are 2 rings in my bag. Please return them to James for me. Anyway, these wedding rings were picked casually. James was thinking of Mia at the time and didn't put his heart into it. I didn't care for this stuff. Ryan nodded and left. Chloe sat beside me. Sophia, James isn't worth it. I knew she deliberately revealed the news of my pregnancy to Ryan. Those 7 years. Letting go was easier said than done. She thought that just because of MIA's existence. James and I had a misunderstanding. But she didn't know they held a wedding. She didn't know that because of Mia, James abandoned me again and again. But now, she understood completely. Ryan sent her a video. Chloe didn't avoid me and clicked it open directly. In the video, James held Mia in his arms. The 2 embraced and wept. She said, I don't want to stay in the hospital. It's so stuffy here. I don't like it here. James said okay. Whatever she wanted. She said, I want to see the world. I want to dance ballet again. I want. She wept silently. James kept saying okay. He closed his eyes, tears sliding down his cheeks. Look, how deeply in love. Fate was truly cruel to these 2 miserable lovebirds. It made me sick to my stomach. Chloe showed me this video to force me to be ruthless. She had always been sober. After the observation period, Ryan and Chloe sent me home. As soon as I got in the car, James appeared. He held the ring box I returned, his eyes somewhat dull. Sophia, did you really abort our child? Chloe frowned. Don't act like the victim. Didn't you facilitate this yourself? I asked softly. Where is Mia? Asleep. Otherwise, why would he come? James didn't answer, which was a default. I laughed. If you are truly that deeply in love, go die with her. Don't appear in front of me again. Because of this sentence, a crack appeared in his dull expression. Pain, sorrow, guilt, all leaked out from this crack. His eyes were scarlet. I didn't speak again. My lower abdomen hurt terribly. Even breathing had to be done carefully. Chloe was furious and yelled, empty your heart so the person who moves in later will be comfortable. Why don't you understand such a simple principle? James, Sophia waited for you for 7 years. What about that Mia? She abandoned you, yet you eagerly went back to her. Are you asking for abuse? Feeding a sincere heart to a dog. Bad luck. James didn't refute a single sentence. Chloe wanted to close the car door, but he reached out and grabbed the door. Sophia, She will leave our lives. Chloe rolled her eyes and sneered. Didn't you just say you were going to accompany her around the world? Right. Cheat one, then cheat the second. James. You want both. You're quite greedy. I'm closing the door. If your hand breaks, you won't be able to take care of your old flame. James stood motionless. No matter how Chloe scolded, he refused to let go. Ryan got out of the driver's seat and advised kindly. You should go. What you did was too wicked. Don't force me to punch you. James just stared straight at me. Sophia. Those words just now were just to soothe her. I will make it clear to her. He opened the ring box and handed one of the women's rings to me. We can go back to how we were at the beginning. We'll get married. And we'll have children again. Ryan shook his head repeatedly, then pried his fingers open one by one. James looked at me with trembling lips. His Adam's apple moved slightly, but no sound came out. The pleading in his eyes was about to overflow. The car started. I looked in the rearview mirror. James stood there, gazing for a long time in the direction I left. When he decided to abandon me, he knew the consequences, just putting on a mournful look to show his deep affection. Chloe followed my gaze and complained, acting like a romantic fool. In the days that followed, I recovered in my rental apartment. Chloe visited me often. She said, James pesters Ryan every day asking for your address. I'm getting annoyed to death. I smiled and continued eating the orange pudding in my hand. Then one day, I received a call from Mia. She asked me out to talk. I readily accepted the invitation. When I arrived at the cafe, she was already sitting there, leaving aside our grievances. Mia was the kind of girl who would brighten people's eyes. She was truly beautiful. She said, James has been taken care of by you these years. I brushed my hair and smiled. Do you know what you look like right now? Like a triumphant thief, knowing clearly you stole someone else's fruit. Instead of being ashamed, you are complacent. Quite shameless. Some words were really uncomfortable if not spat out. Mia stirred her coffee. Not a hint of anger on her face. Feelings are different from growing vegetables. I'm dying, so I discarded everything to get it back. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself. I gave you 7 years, but you still haven't captured his heart. When she said this, she raised her chin, her smile bright, a victor's posture. It seemed she really thought her death would seal James' love forever. She would become the cinnabar mole on his chest. Irreplaceable. I laughed at her naivety. You're dying. What can you hold on to? If you were really capable, you should have made James vow not to marry anyone but you, and follow you to the underworld. Mia, I know the living can't compete with the dead, but after you die, can you guarantee he won't meet another moonlight like you? She knew better than I how good James' conditions were. Excellent looks, substantial assets, easy to attract a constant stream of bees and butterflies. Mia's smile froze on her face. I continued fanning the flames. Let's guess. After you die, will he beg me to come back? She asked me out not just to display the fruits of her victory. She was afraid. During this time, James asked around for news of me and called me from many numbers. She must know all this. She talked to me to test my attitude, to disgust me, to make me give up completely. Unfortunately, I stopped caring about that piece of trash long ago. I curled my lips and said, if I don't look back, guess who he will miss more? Someone who has been dead for years. Or me, who dangles before his eyes but whom he can't have. I took a sip of coffee. Quite bitter. Mia, you know better than I how pathetic James is. Is his feeling for you unrequited love? Or deep-rooted passion? She pursed her lips and didn't say a word. It seemed she wasn't sure herself. Die beautifully in his arms. Maybe he can remember you for a few more years. After leaving this piece of advice, I got up and left. She was like a withering rose. When dying, she frantically sucked love from others, to prove her existence, to demonstrate her significance. Quite sad. They continued to write their life and death, earth-shattering love story. It had nothing to do with me anymore. After recuperating for a while, I accepted an offer from a headhunter and switched to a new company. This city wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. But it was enough for people who said goodbye to be hard to meet again. It sounds silly, but when James and I first got together, to help him, I resigned from my company. Only when his career stabilized did I return to my field of expertise. Although setting aside feelings, it was a valuable work experience, but it did disrupt my career plan. Thinking about it now, a sincere heart was truly fed to a dog. A few months passed peacefully like this. One day, Chloe came to deliver an invitation. For various reasons, their wedding was postponed again and again. Finally, this winter, it was settled. Chloe asked me, "James will come too. Do you mind? If you do, it'll make Ryan kick him aside." Ryan and James had known each other for a long time. They had long agreed to be each other's best man. Of course, the wedding couldn't be affected because of me. I shook my head. "Don't worry about me. It's your wedding. Do whatever makes you happy." Soon, the wedding day arrived. As the best man, James followed Ryan to pick up Chloe. He was dressed smartly in a suit, very much like the first time we met. He probably didn't remember, but I still did. It was in autumn. I failed my postgraduate recommendation, and immediately after, autumn recruitment seemed hopeless. I sat in the pavilion on the hill behind the school, suddenly missing my mom very much. If she were here, she would definitely make me braised pork. After I was full, she would let me continue to work hard. But she was gone. I stood at the top of the mountain. For a moment, I really wanted to jump down regardless of everything. At that time, I saw James. He had just succeeded in starting a business. Dressed in a suit, high-spirited, he stood beside me and said seemingly unintentionally, "This is the best view in the school. You can see a rainbow." I followed his gaze and really saw a rainbow. Intoxicatingly beautiful. I suddenly felt relieved. The big stone pressing on me didn't seem so heavy anymore. That might have really been an unintentional remark, but I remembered it for many years. It wasn't until 3 years later that I met him again, followed by 7 years of entanglement. Unlike that year, the current him showed exhaustion. He saw me too. The atmosphere at the scene was lively, but he just stood there, staring at me motionlessly. His gaze was complex. I turned sideways to help Chloe arrange her dress. Avoiding his gaze, Ryan carried Chloe downstairs. Chloe's home was in an old residential area without an elevator, so they had to take the stairs. There were many people. A child inadvertently pushed me. I rarely wore high heels and instantly became unsteady. Just as I was about to fall, James caught me. The moment I made physical contact with him, I smelled the smoke and jasmine. A familiar nausea surged up. After steadying myself, I pushed him away with force. "Don't touch me." He took a few steps back, leaning against the handrail to steady himself. He lowered his eyes, silent for a while, looking hurt. Goosebumps rose where he had touched me. "Sophia, watch your step." His voice was gentle as always. This tone, as if we still had some relationship. I ignored him and turned to go downstairs. After arriving at the hotel, I realized Mia had come too. She sat in a wheelchair, wearing no makeup, her lips somewhat pale, still that pitiful appearance. She called softly, "James." James frowned imperceptibly but still ran to her. Chloe looked at Ryan beside her. Ryan quickly cleared his name. "I didn't invite her." He glanced at me. Maybe she's afraid James will be seduced away. After all, thieves are most afraid of encountering colleagues. I raised an eyebrow. "I'm not a colleague." Ryan shrugged. "People with dirty hearts think everyone is dirty." Chloe sneered. "Fine. Since she's shameless, I won't be polite." Soon, the auspicious time arrived. The background music of Love Story played. Chloe, in a white wedding dress, walked slowly toward Ryan. I stood off stage, feeling a bit teary. At some point, James walked to my side. He handed me a tissue. I didn't take it. Only then did I notice the wedding ring on his ring finger. Quite pretentious. Didn't put his heart into picking it. Refused to take it off after separating. Feigning deep affection. Mia wheeled herself over. "James." We didn't exchange rings that day. James didn't respond. Turning to look at me, it seemed he wanted to see a little sadness and unwillingness on my face. But he was destined to be disappointed. I stared at the embracing couple on stage, smiling broadly, cheering for them to kiss. James lowered his eyes. "We should have been the ones on stage too, right?" His voice was very soft, drowned in the crowd in an instant. But I heard it. Mia heard it too. Her lips trembled violently. She naturally knew the way James spoke of referred to him and me. Previously, Chloe suggested that the four of us hold a wedding together. At that time, everyone's relationship was good, so the proposal was passed unanimously. I didn't expect James to remember such things. Eating from the bowl while looking at the pot. Truly disgusting. I stepped back a few paces. At this time, a bouquet accurately hit Mia on the head. Chloe took the microphone from the MC. Oops. How did it hit your head? I remember you're married. Right. Said you had a terminal illness and just wanted to get married once in this life. So you stole someone else's fiancé, got no marriage license, but wore a wedding dress, forcing him to hold a wedding with you. Hi. Truly high level. People love gossip. Hearing this, the guests who were burying their heads in food all looked up to find the subject of the topic. I moved further away. Mia held the flowers, her face pale. Whispers rose from all directions. Some even picked up their phones to record videos. Wow. She's so pretty. How is she a mistress? I think she's a vixen. Terminal illness isn't a reason to steal someone's fiancé. How pitiful that little girl is. Almost married. And she pulls this stunt. Shameless. That man isn't a good thing either. A perfect match with that vixen. Ryan coughed falsely a few times. Chloe winked at me and returned the microphone to the MC. She was venting anger for me. When Mia held her wedding, I was also maliciously speculated about by her friends and family. Mia was somewhat at a loss. She subconsciously looked up at James, seeking help. But he just looked at me, hesitant to speak. James didn't respond. Mia's eyes quickly turned red. Gossip is fearful. She hurriedly lowered her head and started the automatic wheelchair to leave. Unexpectedly, James didn't chase after her. Sophia. I didn't get a marriage license with her. I really regret it. There are no filial sons by the bedside of long illnesses. Moreover, she was a woman who had abandoned him. That little bit of unwillingness and unrequited love from the past had probably been ground away long ago. His white moonlight might soon become a grain of white rice left at the bottom of the bowl. Chloe said grinningly. Not going to chase her. She might threaten suicide again later. What if she really dies? I don't want to be labeled a murderer. James gave me a deep look and left. Chloe spat. This Mia has no sense. Seeing her brings bad luck. Ryan hugged her and gently stroked her belly. Wifey, calm down. Don't scare the baby. Chloe snorted coldly. You interact less with people like James who can't think clearly. Yes. Listening to you. Later I heard Mia went missing. Chloe ate the cherries Ryan washed, her face full of disdain. Still acting out. She really thinks she's something. The more she acts out, the more annoyed James will be. I smiled. She's not acting out. She's afraid. I heard that in the middle stages of ALS, one basically loses the ability to take care of oneself. She was afraid. Afraid James would see her ugliest side. She wanted to die beautifully in James' memory. Compared to torturing each other, she wanted James' guilt more. This way, he would remember her longer. It seemed she took to heart what I said in the cafe that day. Later, Chloe told me again. James found Mia. Because of depression and refusal of treatment, her illness progressed quickly. James felt terribly guilty and actually wanted to accompany her around the world. But his company couldn't stop running. Before long, the general manager of the company was replaced. Winter went and spring came. Spring went and autumn came. Mia died that winter. Chloe sighed. Actually, Mia was quite pitiful. Jealousy of the beautiful. If she didn't have those messy operations, I would have pitied her. I thought for a moment. Me too. Saying this wasn't out of being a saint. Just sympathy between women. Not long after, due to decision-making errors, James' company suffered heavy losses. He was currently overwhelmed. When Chloe told me this news, she grinned. That broken company should have closed down long ago. Without my Sophia, how could it flourish? I reviewed project proposals on the computer, nodding repeatedly. Good thing I ran early. Later, James found me. Actually, he had found my address long ago, a while back. I woke up in the middle of the night and fumbled to the bathroom in the dark. Somehow, I glanced downstairs, just in time to see him standing downstairs. Dim light fell on him, a lonely figure. He didn't know how long he had stood there. There was a circle of cigarette butts at his feet. I immediately closed the curtains and didn't look again. This time, he had lost a lot of weight. He looked carefully dressed, but still couldn't hide his fatigue. On his ring finger, he still wore that wedding ring. Sophia, can I come in and sit? I crossed my arms, blocking the door. If you have something to say, say it here. Seeing my firm attitude, he didn't insist. Sophia. I miss you very much. He sighed, his tone somewhat weary. On the day Mia died, I wasn't as sad as I imagined. But every day without you, I feel terribly awful. Look, Mia. Now, do you still think you won? James took out that women's ring again. Sophia. I can't live without you. Without you. How can I continue to hold on? He was truly naive. Back at the hospital, I didn't accept this ring. Now, it was even more impossible to accept. I spoke with thorns. What? A white moonlight died. And you finally remembered me. A grain of white rice. He came to beg me. Perhaps with some sincerity. But more likely, he saw the value in me and wanted me to help him make a comeback. He ended up like this by his own doing. He couldn't blame anyone. James frowned. Sophia, don't be like this. It's not like you. I shrugged. I speak human language to humans, and dog language to dogs. Chloe and I had always been the same kind of people. But, because I loved him, I put away my claws and teeth. But he didn't cherish it. His tone was certain. Those 7 years we had. You couldn't have let go so quickly. I smiled and shook my head. I had always been able to pick up and put down. Yet he was still deceiving himself. James, do you think everyone is as promiscuous as you? He pursed his lips and said, I didn't get a marriage license with Mia. I spoke sarcastically. What do you mean by telling me this? Want me to praise you? Oh, you held your ground. Good job. You belittle your love for her to exaggerate your deep affection for me. James, this makes me feel quite disgusted. Can't live without Yoha must have said words like these to Mia too. Right. I'm afraid if I agreed to him, next time, he would say the same thing to another woman. I only hate that we were entangled for too many years. It wasn't until Mia returned to the country that I saw his true face. I made a move to close the door. Sorry. I have to put on makeup. My boyfriend is waiting for me. James froze. I don't believe it. Don't believe it. I raised my eyebrows, finding him ridiculous. Look downstairs. The one driving the Lamborghini is my boyfriend. Taller, more handsome, and younger than you. He actually walked to the end of the corridor and glanced out the window. Then, his face turned ashen. Bang. I closed the door. On the phone, the new intern's voice was bright and clear. Sister, when will I become a full-time employee?